worlds collide. High road roaring every night. Spotlight on Spurs, feel the fight. Spotlight on Spurs. Take the field. This is passion, nothing concealed. Through the tackles, joy ignites. Spotlight on Spurs, burning lights. Feel the tempo, sweet and wild. London's warriors never mild. Every challenge we endure. Spotlight.
What's up, guys? Luke here from Spotlight on Spurs. Just when you think Spurs can't get any worse, just when you think they can't surprise you any more than you've already been surprised, we go and drop an absolute stink bomb against West Ham, who can't score, can't keep a clean sheet, and at halftime should have been at least 4-0 up against us. Don't you just love our club? Chris, how are we doing, my man?
Just another weekend ruined when you watch it. It's hard to. Luckily, I played golf in the morning before I watched the Spurs game. I'd have to go out with the ump and then play around the golf. But apart from Tottenham, the weekend's been okay. So just forget that.
Apart from Tottenham. Good.
Apart from
Good.
Tottenham.
Yeah, that should actually be the opening line to every question, every start. It should be, how are you doing? Forget about Spurs, and then we'll worry
What's your
about
handicap?
Spurs in a minute. Yeah. What? Go on, Chris. For the viewers, what are your handicap?
Probably 27, I think, at the minute.
And that's the Scottish one, so that don't really count.
Yeah.
Bill, what a weekend! What a weekend! How are you doing anyway?
I mean, all right, mate. I mean, we were on midweek, weren't we? And saying that there's no way we could possibly lose this game. It wasn't even a thought. And then and I know we were just chatting before, and I know we'll talk about it in a lot more detail than this, but it's not like it was a smash and grab win like you would expect of that kind of result. We got played off the park with West Ham, and that is unforgivable, mate.
Yep, 100%. I mean, yeah, as you said, we've been on a few shows in the last week or so, and I think everyone's sort of expectation was Spurs are going to grind out a poor win, and it will be a really bad performance, and maybe that will give Frank a little bit more time and all of that sort of stuff. And what they delivered up is absolutely just ridiculous. We'll start, Chris, before I come over to you, just in terms of the game and kind of, I'm sure Frank will come up to. Obviously, there was a protest that took place before the game. Before I go to Billy and just kind of give him to kind of give an overview of what sort of happened. There were people that were sitting there and saying, very small minority of people, but there were people saying, why is there a protest taking place against the club? You only had to watch the game to find out why there is currently a protest against the club. We come up against a team that have been on a 10-game run without a win. We've also played against the team earlier on in the season who were on an 11-game run without a win in Bournemouth, and both of them come up against Spurs. And this isn't something that doesn't happen often. I've heard and seen so many people on X, on YouTube, say that was probably West Ham's best game of the season. Everybody is not going to keep having their best game of the season against us if it isn't an us problem, right? So that is the reason why people are protesting against what's been put in place, and that's why we got what we got. Bill, come over to you. Obviously, the protest did take place yesterday. Do you want to just kind of, because there was a lot of media coverage around it, do you want to kind of just give a bit of an overview? I know you've been doing a hell of a lot of rounds and a lot of groundwork for this.
Yeah, just thank you for everyone that came down yesterday. It was a real top day out. I think the protest was probably the highlight of the entire day for me, meeting everyone and waving flags and banners and stuff like that. And I think if we're honest, if we want to really make a mark, we need more numbers. So there are about 200 people there, which is an okay start to the season. We need more. So, but thank you very much to everyone that joined us. We will be continuing our action because, I think that, 90 minutes later, I think those numbers would have been double, treble, however how angry everyone would have been at full time. But it's been a real pleasure. We've been backed by this show and everyone. And I think the best thing about the protests this time was, it was on Sky Sports News, it was on BBC, it was on TalkSport, it was on across media, and obviously I think you only have to look in the programme yesterday to see that the club are listening with the statement from Vinay, very well timed, I would say. So we have to keep pushing, but we need more numbers on the ground. So we're probably looking at the Man City game, depending on what happens. I know there's going to be so much change by that game. We'll probably have a new manager, hopefully some new players as well. But that's a game that we're looking at for sure. But this was obviously, we organised this protest before the West Ham game, thinking this is the lowest point. How can it get any lower than this? And then suddenly we're now at an even lower point. So thank you for all the support, and we'll be back. But I honestly, my heart of hearts, and I said it on every show last week, I did not think this was possible, but there we are.
Yeah, I completely agree. I have been saying, and I was, as you said, I was even saying it up until a couple of nights ago. I was saying that I think that Frank should or will stay in the job until at least the summer. It will be evaluated, like I think every top club will do. They'll reevaluate everything that's going on and where people are at. And I just didn't see or envisage a situation where, unless it started to get really, really bad, like results were 3-4-0 and it was happening regular, etc. I just didn't see a world in which that he would go beforehand. And then after that first half, I was like, absolutely not. Like, he cannot. I don't see a world in which he stays. Obviously, when managers start going through a difficult period, the first thing you hear is that, players are not playing for him, players are unhappy and everything else. And obviously that sort of started on X now, doing a bit of the rants, how many people are unhappy and things like that. And I'd hope so. You can't keep losing this many games and playing this badly and be happy with that. But I don't see a world in which he actually stays. And I've done a few polls and things like that. And we've got a poll going in the chat. So if you haven't already, please go and answer the poll. And it's very simple. It's Thomas Frank, in or out. And I've done one on X as well. And on X, the numbers were, it was like 97% wanted out. 95% wanted out. So that is a huge, huge sway. When Ange was looking at going last year, it was about 60-40 on a lot of streams that were being taken place. 60 being that Ange needs to go. Granted, it's not the biggest of networks what I've put out, but for 95% of those people to be like, we want him out is a huge amount. Chris, before we kind of go into the game, just what are your thoughts around Thomas Frank at this moment in time? And obviously what was served up? Are you one that believed this was on players? Is it on the manager? Is it on both? Is it on the board? Where does it sit with you at this moment in time?
I think Frank is a manager. What he's come into Tottenham to do, I just don't think it was the right appointment. And I'm pretty sure at the start of the season when he got appointed, I sort of turned around and said, well, it doesn't fill me with hope because we've gone for a manager that doesn't play the style of football we want to play. But you've got to get behind him and you've got to back him. And I think Spurs fans now, it's not all Frank. I think the majority of it is Frank. The first half performances in most of our games, we have been abysmal. And it's like, why are we coming out in the first half and playing that way? Surely the players ain't coming out and going, do you know what? We'll just save it the first half and then second half we'll win it. Against West Ham, we could have been 3-4-0 down in the first half. And I'm actually sitting there watching it thinking, what is going on here? Like, there's nothing there. And then you can argue that the players ain't good enough, but then also you've got to turn around and say, well, what is Frank doing? Or what is he not doing for the way that we're playing? I think it is time for him to go now. I don't dislike him as a person, as a manager. I think he seems like quite a nice guy and quite down to earth, but in the world of football now, I think he's just not the right person, and we need to get someone in for an interim to just get us through to the summer and then adjust from there, because it's just not going in the right direction, and we're going to end up slipping, I think, into a very, very slippery slope where I can't see, looking at our next sort of 7 fixtures, I don't know where we're going to win. I don't know if we keep playing the way we're playing. I don't know where we're going to win. And also, I want to know what happened. The first game he had was the PSG Super Cup final. And I think nearly every Spurs fan would have watched that game and gone, yes, we lost, but look at how they played. We just looked like we were so up for it. And then since then, it's just gone downhill. Where is that gone? What have we lost after that game to make us go downhill? It's just, it's, as I say, nothing personal against him. I just don't think it's the right remit for him, and I think it's probably time to part ways and try something else.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think there's any person in football that will turn around and say that he's not a nice guy. He seems like a real nice guy and everything else, but for me, he just doesn't seem cut out for a job at Tottenham Hotspur. And actually, there's 2 points. Eugene makes a great point. Watching a Man United team look completely different under a new manager made me realise the verdict. Not only that was they under a new manager, they was under a very specific manager in the last regime who played a very strict structure in terms of exactly what was required. The formation never changed. It was exactly as he wanted it all of the time. And they looked unbelievable. Which I think Carrick had 3 days training, I believe. And then what I think the other point that really goes against a lot of what people have been saying about Frank is simply the fact that the team we was up against in West Ham had 2 brand new players that were playing up front for them that didn't look out of place, didn't look out of rhythm, didn't look like they hadn't played or trained with the team. And we've had this same team, particularly from defence, around the defence and midfield. We've pretty much had the same players available for half the season. And yet I still can't tell you what sort of team a Thomas Frank team is. Now, I know that there's a lot of people that say this is what a Thomas Frank team is, but they're going off of what was at Brentford. They're not going off of what they've seen at Tottenham. So I think that was quite damning. Adrian, we are going to come back to you to your question just in a bit. We'll ask everyone just around that. And that's going to be the topic of conversation at this moment. But Bill, what was your sort of thoughts? As you said, I think everybody expected a win before kickoff, probably expecting a bit of a battle, but what we got served up in that first half, it's untenable. I think someone said in the comments, and I completely agree.
I was sat in the south stand, right? So West Ham coming flying at us and towards me in the first half. I just could not believe what was in front of my eyes. Like every time they got the ball, there was a couple of lucky escapes and they scored. And Somerville had us on absolute toast. And I think there was a save. I think it was right before half time, if I remember rightly. Vicario made an absolute worldie of a save. Was it from a header, from a corner or something like that? And Bowen had a couple of chances, and Bowen was. And I saw right in front of me that Bowen was walking past, and his ankle was absolutely ripped, and he had a blood coming out of his ankle. Like we couldn't handle him; we had to hack him down. I think there was a really bad tackle Archie Gray did on Bowen or Somerville. I think it was on Somerville actually. We just couldn't handle him at all. And this is a team that was 7 points adrift of safety when they're coming into us, like one of the worst teams in the league. And I read that by half time they had the highest XG they've had in an away game since August at half time. And by the end of the game, obviously, they had 3 XG against us. That's unforgivable. It's unbelievable. Yeah. And I know we've spoken a lot to you, Luke, and I see we talk about this all the time. I don't want to keep comparing to last season and the stuff that happened before. But we had these kind of performances when we had people like Archie Gray and Dragusin in defence, and you can kind of think, well, it's a personnel issue. That's Mickey van der Ven and Romero, and we're being torn apart to shreds by West Ham.
Yeah.
There's no defensive solidity there, which we were promised under this manager. West Ham are putting up 3 XG against us, and they're highest at half time. What is the manager doing? What is he imposing on this football club? There's nothing. And talk about the PSG game. I watched that game, come away from it really excited about what's going to happen next, because I saw us fighting for everything. Again, we went into the Man City game a couple of weeks later, really solid. Where has all that gone? It's like, it just shows you about the whole new manager bounce thing, doesn't it, sometimes, and how much that could actually be a thing, because it very quickly has disappeared, and we haven't had a performance like that for ages. But I honestly think that first half, in the context of who we're playing, is one of the worst things I've ever seen in that stadium, and that says a lot because of the amount of misery that we've had in there over the last few years.
Yeah, 100%, and that was one thing that I didn't want to be said, and I didn't want to see people saying that like they've nicked it at the end, and I was like, that is a complete
like the Villa game, isn't it? Where the second half sort of got us a bit of grace, but this one we didn't deserve. Like if we'd have finished that game 1-1, we didn't deserve it to be 1-1 at all.
Yeah, well, 100%. You had obviously they scored 2 goals, and one of them was offside, I think, and one of them was a foul on Van der Ven, which was absolutely clear as day. But the Bowen one where he scored and it was offside, actually the movement before that was Souček off of his chest, and Vicario makes a brilliant save. And if that goes in, that's actually a goal, because it wasn't Souček wasn't offside, it was only Bowen. The striker missed a great opportunity from a header, literally a couple of yards out, and he hit it over. So if we went in 4-0 down at half time, that wouldn't have been a disservice to West Ham, the team that are currently sat in the relegation zone.
If Frank comes out, if we get 4-0 down against West Ham and Frank walks back out on the pitch, I think he gets lynched. I think literally they just like that. They should just cancel the whole game. You can't be doing it. Once that half-time whistle blew, I was just like, I honestly wanted to turn it off. I was like, I can't keep watching this. I can't keep doing this to myself. It just ruins your whole weekend.
I mean, I've never even heard of this bloody striker that they sound, but I'm watching and thinking, bloody hell, he's absolutely tearing us to shreds here. Like, I still don't even know his name, to be honest with you. But
really,
he nearly scored an overhead kick, didn't he?
On TikTok, he came from Lazio, and on TikTok there was a Lazio fan who was dancing around his.
He's Argentinian, is he? I think.
Yeah. So he was dancing around his living room, and it was when West Ham offer £40 million for a striker that can't score goals, and it was him dancing around celebrating. And I was like, he looks like, and this is what it goes. My point is, every single team we play against, every single player that we play against has the best game of their careers or the best game of their season against us. That isn't a them thing. That's an us thing. We make it so easy for teams to play against us all of the time. And going to what Bill said earlier, this isn't where we was at last year, where Anja's kamikaze tactics, he left the defence exposed, and we're playing Ben Davies, Archie Grays and Dragasins at centre-backs. This is a team that have effectively their first primary back four, their main goalkeeper, and obviously Palhinha didn't play, but Palhinha has been available most games as well. So as a defensive unit, Frank should pretty much have his strongest defensive unit available to him most games. Not every game. Romero's missed a few, and players need to be rested, but this should be his strongest defensive unit. So in terms of that, it ain't really going to get any better if he's got his strongest, and this is what we're served up with. And I think if you actually go back to it, and you're right, Billy, I don't want to keep going back to the Ange stuff, but he's the last manager. So when the new manager comes in, that manager will be compared to Frank. That's just how life works, unfortunately. Yeah. When Ange actually had his back five available and fit, his record with them was very, very good, but they would just never fit. And you can say that that's part on him and whatever, but it just goes back to this is the best available defensive unit Frank has got, and he still can't make it work. So it was such a strange game. But yeah, as you said, like I live in East London. I've got so many West Ham fans as mates and everything else, and they just looked like that they were a team that needed to go out there and win a game of football. They was fast, they was aggressive, they was in the tackle, and it was a really, really strange game to watch, because I thought that we would, at the very minimum, come out flying because of the Villa game. Like, so in terms of the second half, Chris, did you think that was a switch in tactics? Did you think that was on Frank? Did you think West Ham just sat off a little bit? What do you contribute the second half? Because we came into it quite a bit, obviously, until they scored. We kind of came into it in that second half. What do you contribute to that?
No, I think the players come out and actually fought. I think they've realised that we're 1-0 down here and we're being turned over. Like we have to play. We have to turn up here. The substitutions were a bit. I don't understand the substitutions, but it always seems it's just too little, too late of us at the minute. we're always too little, too late. And we get a goal back, and then to go and concede right at the end. And there was actually, as the game was playing, it's one of these typical commentator stats. I'm sure they said something like Spurs are the team that have scored the most back corners and set pieces and stuff this season, and West Ham have conceded the least. And I thought, well, at least if we get corners, like they've conceded like eight headed goals this season. So I'm thinking, here we go, Romero, Van der Ven, get them in there. If we get corners and free kicks and stuff, we're gonna. I know we scored for obviously Romero header, but the crosses just seem to be going nowhere. And there was, I mean, he brought off Odebert, and I'm like, Odebert wasn't. No, he brought off Tell. Sorry, Tell was the one. I think Tell's stats were terrible, but at least he was trying to do something. Whereas I think Odebert sort of went a bit missing. It just proves that we need. I don't think we could even call them an attack at the minute. I think left, right, and striker, they're just non-existent. I know Xavi Simons is obviously still trying to. You can say he's still trying to work his way in and pick up with it and stuff, but you can see glimpses that he's got something there. But I think it's a lot more than just a Conor Gallagher we need. I think we need four signings now till the end of this thingy, 4 attacking signings to try and improve what we've got, because it's just clear it's just not nowhere near good enough.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, as you say, like it is January, so it's a difficult window to get signings over the line. And as I keep saying about January in particular, it's a window where it's opportunistic. So you kind of go like I use Villa as an example. They have a chance of potentially really go in for the title if they just kind of push the boat out, and they kind of done it a little bit last year with a top 4 and kind of going a little bit all in. And or you do it because you're in an absolute disaster, right? And City are probably, you could argue City are one of both. You could say, is it a disaster for them? It is, because they're not winning the league, but also they've got a chance to progress. Why they've got Gay and Semenyo. With us, if we have to overpay, we absolutely have to overpay, because this squad isn't delivering, and Frank doesn't take all the responsibility for that. He can't, because that wouldn't be fair, because some of these players aren't up to it. But
no,
he can still be getting more from this team. And the people that are saying about, as I say, West Ham are a prime example. They had 2 players that have come in this January that look suited in that team. That means that the manager's been able to get them up to speed to make sure they're playing as a team. So the whole Frank's not been here long enough for me doesn't really cut the mustard. Yes, he will. You would expect to keep seeing improvements, but for me, I haven't seen any improvement whatsoever. And I think the bare minimum, I think you mentioned it a little bit earlier, Bill, the bare minimum, when we see that Frank was coming in, we was expecting, particularly at home, at least we're going to see effort, we're going to see organisation, we're going to see the fundamentals will be there.
Last season, yeah, and every season.
Exactly. And you know that if you go to Brentford, like if we was playing Brentford away, the first thing you'd be going is, well, you know it's going to be a difficult place to play. You know you're going to have to be up for it. You know you're going to have to be, and if you are up for it and you do match them, hopefully your quality will shine through. And you would hope that would have been the same thing for us. But it just feels like there's, from that PSG game to now, like if you actually think about it, we was 2-0 up against the best team in the world only a matter of months ago. And now we should have been 4-0 down to West Ham at half time.
Worst team in the world.
Like, it's just, I've actually got like, I started a brand new TikTok this week, and I put up my first few videos, and I'm literally having West Ham fans laughing at me. And I'm like, you are in the relegation zone. There is a good possibility you get relegated, and you are still in a situation where you can laugh at Spurs. That is how bad we actually are. It's just absolutely crazy. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, as I say, in terms of the second half, I think that West Ham tired a little bit. I don't know whether you two agree on that. I think they tired. They were bang up for it that first 45. They tired a little bit. And that's when we started to come into it. And if that's your tactic as a Spurs manager, to come into a game in the second half when West Ham kind of are losing their energy levels, then it just says a whole heap of what we're about. Just before we kind of go any further, I do want to say, obviously, we was discussing just before we came on about whether Frank's going to be the man to stay in charge, whether he's going to be made to be sacked. There's been rumours about him definitely being here for Dortmund. There's others coming out saying that he's literally a meeting away from going. And Vinay's come out with this huge statement about the ambition, and he wanted to share their plans and all of this sort of stuff. And it kind of hints, when I read it, it kind of hints that they believe in what they're doing, which you would think then believe in the manager, right? So how does this look, Chris? How does this look if they bring out this statement just before West Ham and then say Thomas Frank isn't in charge at Dortmund? Does this just mean that Spurs are again looking like a bit of a laughing stock?
I think it just shows this incompetence around it all. There's times where you need to sort of make the statements, but I don't know. Everything just seems to be a big joke now at this club. It's just so hard to take anything serious now, and it wouldn't surprise me if Frank is sacked tomorrow before the Dortmund game, and maybe it's not just
tomorrow. Have they moved the fixture early?
When are we on? What's tomorrow? Tomorrow's Monday.
Monday, Champions League fixtures. That's a new one.
No, game's on Tuesday, isn't it? Or Wednesday?
You just said tomorrow.
No, before the Dortmund game, you know.
Oh, sorry. Right, okay.
All right. So I think he goes, and I don't think the owners really will. They won't be too fussed about that. But there's definitely a lot of noise now, and if the fans, I've seen online, there's loads of tickets available for the next game, and no one's going. And I think they're going to really start to having to make these decisions based on that, because if you ain't going to have the fans there, the team ain't going to be getting cheered on. The stadium's going to feel and sound empty, and it is going to be empty. And it's just not going to be a nice atmosphere for anyone that's involved in the club. So if they do it, it means that Vinay is not always making all the. It's not Vinay for me. Then you don't bring out that statement on a Friday night, Saturday morning, and then sack the manager 3 days after making that big statement. So it would be a board collective, and it would probably be a majority vote, and it'll be gone. It won't be Vinay making that sole decision.
Yeah, well, apparently there's a bit of a split between the board. I think some seem to think that Frank should be staying, and others seem to think that he should be going. And we've just had a message in the private chat just to say that there has been a report that's come out from Martin Lipton and Tom Barkley, who are saying that Thomas Frank is on the brink of being sacked at Tottenham Hotspur. So maybe you're right. Maybe we will get an 11 o'clock piece, but maybe it will happen first thing in the morning. But as I said, with Spurs, who's to know? But apparently the latest rumours are that, as it says here, are on the brink. Thomas Frank is on the brink of being sacked as Tottenham Hotspur boss. We have done a vote in the chat as well, and again we're looking at. I said on X it was 95% in the chat today. It's 97%. Again, I appreciate the numbers are not every single Spurs fan at all, but when you're looking in the 90% of a manager being sacked, that is a ridiculous amount of people. As I said, for anyone that's just joined, Ange last year was like 60%. Most people were saying 60% out. And if Frank is at 90, where has it gone right at this stage, Billy? Where at this moment in time has this appointment, or as anything that happened in the summer, actually worked out? From Paratici to Frank, obviously there seems to be a movement in terms of transfers. Obviously, Levy's gone as well. Have we managed to get anything right since we won the title in May?
No, nothing at all. I would say. I think the only thing that we got right was the sale of Brennan Johnson at the beginning. But even that, you could say, well, we didn't replace him, so where's the benefit in that? I do think long term, I think Xavi Simons will look back on that as a really good signing for us. I don't doubt that. I think when new manager comes in, and let's be real, a new manager is going to come in now. We're at the stage where we can pretty much very confidently say that. A bit more of an attacking intent than, Xavi Simons. And then you look at some of the recruitment has been a bit improved because we've signed 5, first team players since Frank has arrived. And I think Kudus, Gallagher, Simons is a step in the right direction for recruitment, definitely. Kolo Muani, I would say. I mean, I think we should cancel his loan, to be quite honest with you. I think his heart is very clearly not in it. But I think in general, the recruitment has slightly improved, since being European champions. I mean, the fact that we cancelled seasons 3 for this is just mad looking back now. I was as is doing the rounds at the moment, it probably always will be over the next few weeks. I was reading, someone retweeted the Ange sacking tweet, and every single reply to it was saying, what are you doing? I can't believe this. What's going on? Every single one was negative. Like, people wanted him to stay at the time. And I think after the parade and, all the things that happened in the parade and the videos came out of him doing the speech, and then there's the season 3 quotes, like all that goodwill has just evaporated so quickly. And now the parade feels like another lifetime ago, which is unbelievable. And it goes beyond whether you just want Ange back or what. I'm not saying I want Ange back, but just the fact that we've wasted all that goodwill is just unforgivable, really. But, is anyone surprised with this football club? It's what we do. Daniel Levy is gone and we all wanted that. And even that's looking like people are going, well, was Levy even a problem? But which is mental to even think about that. Of course he was. But even we make that look like it could have been a bad decision, which is crazy. It was obviously what we've been fighting for years. But, it's just Chris said it earlier, the leadership and the incompetence is just staggering at every single level. And I can't believe it. I can't believe it's this bad. And, even when we started the protest a couple of weeks ago, it'd be unthinkable that we'd be sitting here talking about a West Ham loss. Like, it's just, you'd think mental. It's just, I can't believe how bad it is. And I think the board would genuinely, would be wanting to keep Thomas Frank to the end of the season, but it's just got to a point now where they can't possibly do it. They can't do it anymore. And the worrying thing about all of this for me is because all of this Thomas Frank drama is happening right now, and obviously all of their time right now will be thinking, who's going to come in? Who's going to do the press release? Who's going to do this? Mm-hmm. Notice how there's no transfer news at the moment at all. No one's thinking about transfers right now, are they? Because we're all thinking about the manager. So, we've got what day is it today? So it's the 19th tomorrow. So best part of about 12, 13 days left of the window. 2 weeks today, isn't it? And it's just, and you're right, it is the goodwill that's been destroyed by the owners of this football club. But we've got to sign players in this window, otherwise we could be, look at our February fixtures, mate. And West Ham have gone out and signed players. They're not going to, West Ham are going to back Nuno. They're going to stick with Nuno. You can tell they've got a plan. And it might be a disastrous crisis plan, but at least they're doing something. Tottenham, we could really get dragged in, mate, which is a mental thing to say.
Yeah, and James has put here, what if there's a Burnley loss?
And you were saying at the beginning, I think Burnley are 13 games without a win. So that means you know what that means for us.
Like, it's just absolutely crazy that Spurs are currently 14th. They've got 27 points. Bournemouth have still got a game to play, which is tomorrow. If they win, they go above us. That means we're now 15th. We're 2 points in front of Leeds. We are 5 points.
Everyone was saying Daniel Farke was sacked ages ago, weren't they?
Yep. You've got Nottingham Forest are 5 points behind us. And obviously, they had a terrible run at the start of the season. They were looking really, really bad. They're now 5 points off of us. And as you said, you've got a February fixture list, which is not kind at all.
It's scary, a February fixture list. City, Man United, Newcastle, Arsenal. Did your first 4 in February.
And even after that, it's like Fulham away, Palace, who, we'll never know what Palace team can turn up. Then Liverpool.
We used to say it about with Spurs, and we've said it for a long time, really. You don't really know what Spurs is going to turn up. The problem is, we do know what Spurs is going to turn up, and it's not a good Spurs at all. And 9 times out of 10, that's exactly what we seem to be. So, but just in terms of, obviously, it does sound like there's more and more rumours about it. I thought it's best off, let's just have a little look at the available coaches that are currently there right now. And there is, let me see if we can zoom in a little bit. So there are a few pipe dreams in here. And obviously a lot of these are permanent managers as well. You've also got some sort of caretakers that could come in or interim managers as well. But you've got Gareth Southgate, obviously. Xabi Alonso for me is going to wait until the summer, which I think is what Bill was alluding to earlier in terms of, I think Spurs wanted to get to the summer and then they can make a proper decision. But is the position just untenable now? Do we have to make a decision now? I think Xabi Alonso is not going to make a decision until the summer, at least with possible with Liverpool coming available, etc. You've got Maresca, who's just come out of Chelsea. You've got Xavi. You've got Amorim. Motta as well. Outside of that, Terzic is
scroll back up. Who's that? What's that? Scroll back up. What's that one there? Whose last club was Forest? What's that?
You're going to upset the chat, mate. You can't be bringing the Ange talk around here. You can't do that. Sam Allardyce, if we're talking about a real relegation dogfight, and that is literally the list of managers that is currently available that you can go and get. All of the others, or a lot of the others, have had chances in the Premier League, and none of them have really worked out. So it would be interesting to see who you could actually go and get. Xavi's obviously been out of work for a little while now, but it seems to be
strongly linked with Ajax at the moment, isn't he, as well?
Is he?
Yeah, they've just got a new sporting director, and Cruyff's son. They want to play for Man United, and they're now strongly linked with Xavi as manager.
So you've got basically there's about five that you could say is as reasonable links. Southgate will be one of them. Xabi Alonso, Maresca, Xavi, and then who's the other one? Terzic. I think that's kind of it. I don't think Motta. I can't see Amorim. No, I can't see them going for Amorim.
But also, how much of a shambles could it be if we signed John Heitinga to come in as this guy's assistant manager, and then potentially within less than 5 or 6 days he could be getting paid off with God as well?
That's what I mean. It might have been the case that was always the plan. Like, you bring him in, he kind of gets used to the club, and then if they have to make that decision, they've internally got someone that can just take over for that short period.
So I reckon, right, I know his agent said he knows what he's getting into. In the back of his mind, he must know. Yeah, if he gets another couple of defeats here, I've got a chance getting in.
Yeah, 100%.
So he must have known. I mean, football, everyone knows football, don't they? He would have known coming in. If he gets a couple of losses here, I could be well in here.
Yeah, I reread his quotes, and you could definitely see that. I reread his quotes today, and I was like, is he saying it? Do you know what? He may be saying they've shown me what's going to happen. I'm aware of it, and he's previously been a manager. Obviously, Heitinga weren't on that list because he is obviously employed, and it was just people that are not currently in a job. But it definitely says, like, I've seen the vision, I've been shown the vision, and maybe the vision was you come in as the assistant for 6 months, we'll see where we're at, but failing that, if we have to do something drastic, then there's a manager's job there for you to kind of come in.
And I've been so desperate today that I looked at his managerial record at Ajax, and I was thinking he got sacked, he must have been doing awful, but he's only lost 1 league game at them. And he lost all 4 Champions League games, which is why I think he got sacked. But Ajax are nowhere near what they used to be, are they, in terms of Champions League? So only lost 1 league game though. So that's what we could be going into.
At this rate, it could be come in for 6 days and become our interim manager, not come in for 6 months and see how it goes. Come in for 6 days and take over the job. It's bonkers. Again, it's just another. It's something that just doesn't add up. It's mental.
But typical Spurs, right? Like, and you sound earlier just about obviously Levy going and everything else, but in terms of going from one extreme to another, Spurs have been doing that very, very consistently for a while now, which is not a way that big clubs would normally operate. And we've even done the same thing really with Levy, because we had Levy who micromanaged everything. I think there's a general acceptance that Levy kind of was involved in absolutely everything at this football club. And then you look at actually how much we've really split up his role. And there seems to be a lack of an accountability or an account of any sort of leadership. So we've gone from one being almost too much of a leader in terms of trying to take responsibility for everything to actually no one now actually taking responsibility for anything. And again, we've gone from one extreme to the other. This is why I kept saying all last year that the managers are really irrelevant. Or all the managers are doing are hoping for a bit of luck, and that luck can be top players don't get injured. That luck can be we get really fortunate in the draws that we get in terms of cups, that sort of stuff. Like Frank has obviously been, you could argue, quite unlucky in the cup draws to draw Newcastle away and then to get an informed Villa as your first sort of couple of rounds is obviously a difficult task. But this is just Spurs. This just seems to be what happens consistently. So big shout out to Adrian, who's put a couple of questions in that I think are worth asking. Do the panel think that when Frank is sacked in the coming days, it will adversely affect our transfer window? And I think Billy's sort of touched on that in terms of right now we weren't hearing loads of stories of transfers, but it seems that every single story that's coming out of the club right now is around Frank. And are they actually focusing on that and not what's actually going to really help us, which is actually on the pitch? But Chris, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that there will be an adverse effect on the transfer window if we're looking at sacking Frank at this moment in time?
I think it'll also depend on who comes in. I mean, I think if Heitinger does step up and become interim for the rest of the season and nothing else really changes, then I think it's quite clear. If we do go and sign a complete new manager like a Xavi or a Alonso, whoever it may be, they might say, I need this, this and this, and then we go and completely change. But I don't think it'll match. I think it's quite clear what we need. We need attacking outlets. We need people that are going to create and score goals, and that won't change regardless of who's the manager.
Fair enough, Billy. What are your thoughts? Do you think there'll be an adverse effect on the transfer window, or does it give the board another excuse to be like, well, we was too busy worrying about what was going on with the manager than to worry about players?
Yeah, of course there is. It's a ready-made excuse, isn't it? And now they'll say, well, we would, and it will buy them a little bit of time with everyone because everyone will be trying to support a new manager or whatever, and we'll probably get a new manager bounce. If we get Heitinger, even if whoever it is, we only have to look at the Man United game. Carrick is probably someone we should have looked at hiring as an interim ourselves. Man United were a completely different team against Man City, and it's unbelievable. And we saw it with Thomas Frank even. The short-term manager bounce thing is a massive thing in football, and sadly that speaks to how players they have to the mentality of players these days. But yeah, I think that the problem is that this is all a big distraction from the big problem, which is our squad is nowhere near good enough, and we're being absolutely ravaged through injuries. Ben Davies injured badly, I believe, as well. Probably won't see him again ever in a Tottenham shirt. And then Xavi limping after the game, and Archie Gray limping. This is already on top of an absolute mental injury crisis. We need to get players in, and if our whole time is going to be spent thinking about a manager, which is why they need to act really quickly, because then we've still got maybe a week or two to get some players in for the new manager. But the biggest thing going into this January is we have to get new players, and Conor Gallagher and Sousa is not enough, because we are staring a relegation battle in the face at the moment, which is where we're at, sadly.
Yep, I completely agree. And then there has been another question from Adrian, similar kind of a different direction to what he just said in terms of Frank leaving. But he said that if Frank's not sacked and he's there against Dortmund, what sort of fans' reaction do we think they will see? Because Bill, maybe you'll be able to give a little bit more on this in terms of it's been reported that almost the players were the ones that were getting half clapped, and then it was quite clearly Frank, when he come near the fans, was the one that was being booed. It wasn't seemed to be aimed at just the players. But what did you notice when the booing started? Was it more aimed at Frank in your eyes?
Yeah, and a couple of players came over to the ground at the end of the game, and I was reading online. I'll be completely honest with you, mate. I left at 1-1. That's I thought we've drawn. It's a terrible result. And then I come out the stadium and I hear but I've seen online since that when Frank went down the tunnel, a lot of the players got clapped off. Romero got clapped off. Bergwijn got clapped off. This is and obviously the whole South Stand was singing Sax in the morning. So when the fans go like that, we saw it of Nuno, who only got 8 games to have this kind of You know, probably look back on that and think that he's probably treated a bit unfairly compared to how long Frank's been going now. But yeah, he's lost all support. I think, you know, your polls and he's 95% or whatever it is, or high 90s or whatever. There's no one in that stadium that's supporting him at the moment. And I actually think, you know, at 1-1, when it went to 1-1, and even when it was 1-0 in the second half, the fans were really behind the team because we were sort of, it was a bit like the Aston Villa game slightly because we were trying to attack at least. So, you know, you just can't blame the fans at this point because that result is untenable. So, you know, I think any manager there is getting booed for losing to West Ham, but I think he's lost all kinds of credence and all kinds of support now because you just can't lose at home to a pretty much relegated West Ham. It's an impossible result to recover from.
You're on mute.
It's because I never mute myself. Amateur mistake, that one. What do you think? Do you think that like, for instance, obviously you get the players being called out before kick-off and to go through the lineup and that sort of stuff, and obviously when they run out onto the pitch, some of them have gone through difficult times and the fans have sort of clapped them on and cheered them on and made an extra effort to kind of make them feel like the fans are behind them. Can you imagine a situation where the manager just comes out before a game's even kicked off and maybe the fans are booing him before we've even took to the field? Or do you think that it will be reserved especially for when we have a terrible first half against Dortmund and then we'll get booed?
It's also the lineup that could potentially be picked against Dortmund as well doesn't give you much hope because we've got a lot of, I think Mickey van der Ven suspended. Obviously got a few injuries. A couple of players have been taken out of the actual Champions League squad to put other players in because of injury. So it's just, it's hard to see a night at the Spurs Stadium where they all come out and they all don't get booed. I think there was someone said that the whole South Stand was singing "You're getting sacked in the morning," and that just proves the sort of the disarray at the club now and how much the fans want him gone. It's not going to get any better.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think we were saying a couple of weeks back that he had some boos from the away fans, and once you lose them, it's very, very difficult. But I don't remember seeing so many fans so disillusioned so quickly with the manager. Like, obviously last year with Ange, it was always the Europa League was there as the kind of carrot. Everyone could see that the first team was being moved out for Premier League games and we was going to kind of go for that. And even though that there was a lot of fans that kind of at the time were saying Spurs won't beat Frankfurt, Spurs won't beat Bodo, these are all tough teams, Spurs won't do it. Now we've played them, these teams were really easy and we should have been battering them anyway. But at the time there was a lot of we wanted to believe but we couldn't quite believe, but it still was nowhere near the levels of toxic nature. And it's like, it just seems that every single game, it's not even a case as if they boo. It's like, when are they going to boo? Because we know for a fact what we're going to be served up with. And it's just been nowhere near. And I can't actually put my finger on the exact reason why. Like, as Billy mentioned earlier, like this is a manager he seems to be fairly intelligent as a human. He seems to be, especially at Brentford, tactically seemed to be pretty good. Even if it was only in for particular games, it was good. But we just don't seem to have, like, there's nothing in this team from start to finish. Like, am I seeing it differently, Chris? Or do you look at this team and do you have any understanding what this team is, what Thomas Frank's trying to do? How is he trying to win games? Is he trying to dominate? Is he trying to sit back? What do you look at this team and think this is what Spurs are going to do or be today if they were playing? Oh, you're on mute. Lost you.
I've done your trick.
There you go. Billy, you're next.
I've seen some games where we've gone 1-0 up and it's like we just want to just keep that for as long as we can and then make changes just to see it out. And then it's almost like if we go in 1-0 down, it's right, second half, we need to bring this back. And you can't keep doing that. Tactics, we keep on trying to put the ball in the box and there's no one there to... Solanke's obviously good for that, but he's He's obviously just come back from injury. He's only getting some minutes. I just don't see. We've lost Kudus, who was probably our most prolific attacking outlet. He was the one that was going to give us something in a game. I just don't see what we're doing to try and score goals because nothing's working. There's little moments, 5-10 minutes in games where we seem to be getting the ball, getting it forward, trying to do something, and it's almost like that's what we focus on in the game because it's good, and then the rest of it is just what else we're doing with passing through our midfield and Romero stepping forward a lot. I understand if you're 1-0 down, you want to try and get the boys forward and push on. But not a 0-0. We can't keep having, and he's probably fed up as well that we can't make 5-yard passes to each other. We can't string 2, 3, 4 passes together. So, and surely this is what they're working on in training as well. But just as I say, every game I watch, I just don't understand what the tactic is to score unless it's a corner or a throw-in.
Yeah, as I say, it's just it seems to be every game is let's get to 60 minutes and see where we are, and then we'll kind of go from there. And I have heard people say that obviously Frank has become a little bit more. Well, yeah, probably you could argue even more at Spurs. He's been more worried about the opposition, Billy. But I'm not even seeing tactics where he's trying to stop an opposition from playing. Like I don't look at it and go, oh, I can see that he's doubling up on the right hand side, or I can see that he's played this player in this position because he wants to counteract there. I just literally, I can't see anyone on the pitch knowing their job, knowing what to do. I can't see any partnerships that are even working. I'd go as far to say the Romero Van der Ven partnership isn't really working at this moment in time because Romero seems to be a law. Yeah, he seems to be a law unto himself. At least towards the back end of last year when Ange changed his tactics, or some will argue the players changed the tactics. You could see them two working as a good unit. They were solid. They were together. Romero would press, Van der Ven would drop off. Whereas now they don't even look like a good partnership. So I can't see how this sort of changes. I can only see the manager changing. I can't see how this changes in any way. Bill, I'm sure you agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's so unbelievably disjointed. And I saw David Ornstein come out today and say that up to 6 first team players are disappointed. And I think, as much critical as I am of Thomas Frank, I do think the players need to have a long, hard look at themselves as well. They are pathetic in some ways, particularly where they do this manager after manager after manager. And the fact that, Thomas Frank has not been able to control them is not just the fact that it probably is a club too big for him, but the players need to have a serious look at themselves too. It's just a sad state of football, isn't it? And I think, again, I don't want to keep mentioning Ange, but under Ange, the players always stuck by him, and we saw, afterwards how much they appreciate him. This group of players are probably never really taken to Thomas Frank, and I think that's a bit of a sad state of affairs. But players should be respecting whoever the manager is. But I think our group of players have got some problems there, so I do feel sorry for him in that regard. But I think it's a simple case of the job is too big for him. The sad thing is when you're a big 6 football club like we are, and you have these players on high wages, you have a lot of personalities, and we've seen it in Man United. Ruben Amorim couldn't deal with the players there, had to leave, couldn't handle that. Maresca the same. When you get these massive players on massive wages, the sad reality is in modern football is they have an attitude problem. They're prima donnas, and it's just the way the modern football game is. And if you're not a massive personality like Guardiola or Ange or Alex Ferguson or someone like that, and we see it with Arteta as well. You have to rule so almost like a dictator in that squad. Otherwise, any kind of player power, you soon lose your job. You have to be such a big personality. So I hope we learn from our mistakes. And there's 2 ways that you can kind of do it. You can either have the sort of authoritarian, like Ange was, who was had a really strong philosophy and going into it, or you can be like Poch, who had such a good relationship with all the players and players adore him. But we have to get one of those 2 things right, because the sad reality of modern football and being a big 6 club as these players are absolutely, players' power is everything these days, sadly.
Yeah, completely agree. And Eugene, he's come in with a comment saying, do we have breaking news live on this stream? And I've got to tell you, we do. This is some huge news that's just come in. and it's the fact that we've just reached 1,700 subscribers. So there's your big news, Eugene. That's the only news you need to know, my man. And the other big news will be following, but it won't be anywhere near as big or as useful to you as this news. So massive shout out to everyone that's subscribed. 1,700 of you. They're not in here all at this moment in time, but you've been in here before. So a massive thank you to all of you guys. And yeah, I just don't see a world in which that he can really turn this round. I feel like it's really difficult. But that leads us on to another sort of issue here, Chris. And when we kind of touched on it a little bit, but if we are now targeting players that are not for Frank because we believe Frank is eventually going to get the sack, albeit whenever that is, who is making the decisions to buy the players? If it's not the manager that's leaving, if it's not the director of football who's leaving in potentially before the manager, depending on how quickly we do get rid of Frank, if it's not Paratici, if it's not Thomas Frank, the majority of the fan base probably want Langer out as well. Who's buying these players, and how are they deciding that these are the players that we need going forward if we don't know who the manager is going to be or what style he's going to have?
Honest, exactly like what you've just said there has just scrambled my brain, as you just don't know what who is actually leading this. Don't know. It's just such a, you could talk about, and we said it during the week as well, Tottenham's the only team where you could talk about not just the players or the manager, you can talk about everything to do with the club, because there's always something. It's just, as you say, it's just typical of Spurs that the manager's looking like he's going, the director of football's going, you've got Langer, who I don't know what he does. I don't know if he's just signing 16, 17-year-olds, is that's what he's in for, to get the academy players in or whatever. But it'd be nice to know who is actually running the club and who is doing what in this club, because it's not quite clear yet who's doing what, because everyone seems to be getting the boot and going.
Bill, who are we buying? Or sorry, who's buying the players, and who are they buying them for, and what style are they buying them for? Has anyone got any clue?
Isn't it? And a friend of the show, Connor, was saying that we have to get the director of football appointed before. I know it's interesting because there was a report last week that said Tottenham will replace Paratici with someone else. But then in the statement Vinay made, he kept calling Langer the director of football. So I don't think Langer's going anywhere, which I think is unbelievable. My personal opinion is if Frank goes, then Langer has to follow him. Like you can't survive it. That's your guy. Mm-hmm. You got to go.
Yeah, that's what I was. That's one thing I was going to ask.
Director of football in, and we're going to be scrambling around in Germany. God knows. I mean, absolutely, God knows. Chirpy the mascot will be signing the players at this rate because no one's left in the building, and everyone's changing all over the shop. But let's hope they have some conviction. And someone in the chat and people on Twitter are talking about Xavi coming in. So God knows what's going to happen in the next couple of days. But there's a lot to do in the next 2 weeks, aren't there?
It's just absolutely crazy. And for anyone that doesn't already know, Chris mentioned it earlier about the games coming up. And I've said this for months. When you're in a bad run of form, every single game in the Premier League is very, very difficult. I know people tend to say that, but there's certain fixtures that you look out for and you go, actually, we should be picking 3 points up there, blah, 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 blah. The following fixtures are Dortmund at home, which is going to be very difficult regardless of how you look at it. We then play Burnley away. Then you've got Frankfurt away. Now, moving into February, you've got Manchester City at home, United away, Newcastle at home, Arsenal at home, Fulham away, Palace at home. Then you move on to Liverpool away, Forest at home, and then Sunderland and Brighton. Like every single game, I'm like, at least the next one will be easier. Oh, no, it ain't. Oh, the next one will be easier. Oh, no, that's now away from home. Like, this could realistically go. You could realistically go eight games in a row here where you don't pick up a victory. And my next question is: do you think that's playing part of the reason why they don't want to appoint another manager? Because what happens if they appoint another manager, he comes in and he loses 4 or 5 on the trot. Does everyone then go, oh, maybe you should have just stuck with Frank anyway? Chris, do you think that with this such a difficult set of fixtures, they're going almost let Frank take the brunt of the losses, and then when you appoint the new fella, hopefully he comes into an easier set of fixtures?
I think from a fan point of view, and most fans would probably agree that anything is surely going to get better. It surely can't get worse than this. Even if it is someone to come in and just give some of the players a bit of a confidence boost and say, look, come on, boys, you're better than this. We're going to play this style of football. It's going to benefit everyone. We're going to play to our advantages. We don't care who we're playing against. We're going to just play our game. And we end up going at. I honestly think a new manager brings a new lease of life to the team. I think we start to see better performances. I think we see players putting in the effort. And even if we do lose, I think at least the fans will turn around and say, at least something has changed and the players are actually playing. But again, unless they appoint someone that, and the fans turn around and sort of say, why have we got him? What is the point in getting him? That's the only thing I could sort of think of. But we need to sign someone who is going to come in and just not change everything, but just give the players a boost, because surely they just need a pat on the back or a lift to say, look, you're better than this, and change the style and just let us play a bit more free flowing and allow and play to our players' strengths rather than what we're playing against.
Yeah. What do you think, Bill? Do you think that that's playing a part of it? Do you reckon do you think it's a part of it, and should it be a part of it? Are they thinking actually if the new manager comes in and, as I say, loses 4 on the bounce, then everyone starts having uproar about that as well? Or do you think it's just indecisiveness? They're not sure what's going on, or do we expect that we're going to wake up in the morning like literally every single possible outcome could be correct at Spurs? Right? This is the problem with us. There's no factual. You can't use common sense because that doesn't work with Tottenham Hotspur.
Stick them all in a hat and just pull one out and just go with it and then see what happens, and do that every week.
Do you know what?
Are you on the board?
Do you know what? I think that was probably their plan with Thomas Frank, and I think the reality is now is coming the fact that we could genuinely be dragged into a relegation battle, and I think now it's all good, trying to give him as much time as possible. But the fact is, we're losing and losing and losing and losing. And if we continue to lose and West Ham pick up another win or two, 7 points can turn to 4 points and then 1 point in 2 weeks, can't it? It's like, it could get mad. Yep. So I think that their intention has always been, right, let's give them to the end of the season, or even now, let's give them to the end of February, get to that international break. But now, we're in an absolute crisis. So I think they've got to act. I think they can't, the thing is, right, what you'll look at now, and if you look at, I know Tom, but I've just been trying to find it so I could talk about it a bit more, and I found it. Is that Tom Barkley is saying that Xavi Hernandez is in the frame to take over immediately. And what you've got to think for, if that did happen, the stadium would be absolutely buzzing if Xavi walked out on Tuesday. Someone, and I don't really know anything. I don't really know a lot about Xavi's management style or anything like that. I know what he did at Barcelona, but the aura of having a guy like Xavi come into Tottenham, suddenly the whole framework around the atmosphere changes because we've got a new guy. And even if it's Heitinga, at this point, just a new guy in charge will completely change the atmosphere in that stadium. Because if Thomas Frank walks out on Tuesday, there's already going to be anxiety and nerves among the crowd. There's already going to be a negative atmosphere. If Xavi walks out on Tuesday, I saw it at Conte. Remember when Conte walked out in the Conference League? I was there. I think it was against some absolutely terrible European team, but the stadium went absolutely nuts. And, if Xavi walks out on Tuesday, the whole feeling around the club suddenly changes. And that might be what we need to get through this awful, awful set of fixtures.
I know what some people are saying about, obviously, every single manager comes with what you could say is negatives, right? Or question marks or anything like that. Every single manager does. It doesn't matter who they are. And the problem is that we're going for ones that have so many question marks over them. Even are they adept at playing twice a week? Frank didn't have that. What do we want to be as a club? Do we want to bring through youth players? Do we want young players to constantly be be bled through and everything else. Frank's never had that. He didn't even have a youth team at Brentford. So we've got so many question marks, and we seem to go to the manager that has most of them. That there's no ticks next to him. It's like, oh, we'll go to the ones that's got so many different question marks. So, I mean, Xavi would be. A lot of people wanted Xavi in the summer, right? And the argument was, what would Xavi do with this group of players? But we've seen that these players have regressed in terms of their passing and everything else anyway. So obviously, if you bring him in and you see something, you can see a style of play. Like if you see players trying to put things together and it doesn't quite work out, then you can go, that's on the player. Like we can see the intricate plays where they want to get and where they want to go. And if a player can't deliver it, then you upgrade the player, that's fine. But the problem with Frank is I don't see anything. And I have a strong belief that if Xavi came in, within a few weeks, you'd be able to understand what he's looking to do, how he's looking to play. And then that's down to the board to say, you can clearly see what I want. Everyone can clearly see what I need. Now you go and get them. So you've kind of answered it, Bill. But before we wrap up, we are going to wrap up in a minute. I've just had a little look, and actually we've got over 100 people in here, and we haven't even got 50 likes yet. So make sure you're smashing that like button. Guys, I've been posting the guys' links as well. You've obviously got Billy T, got his brand new YouTube channel out. I believe it's the second episode was done today. So only 2 episodes in, already hit over 1,000, which is unbelievable achievement. But so if you haven't already, go over and make sure you subscribe and follow obviously Bill on X as well, and then Chris's X account, which has had a couple of tweets in a couple of months. Go and follow him for some breaking news on Spurs, just more like slow sports news really, but go and give him a follow as well. But Chris, we'll come over to you before we'll just do the transfers just quickly in terms of if there's any players that you think we should be targeting. But in terms of Frank, before you sort of tell me, do you think he's going to be here in the net, say by the end of January? And if your answer is yes, do you think he goes in the summer? How do you think the whole Frank situation plays out?
I think he goes tomorrow. I just don't see how he can, if there's all this talk about the board are sort of in discussions, there's all these emergency meetings taking place. He goes tomorrow. There's nothing else. My worry is that whoever does come in, it needs to be on the basis of, even if you do well, it'll be assessed in the summer. There's no guarantees. There's no 4-year contract. It's from until the end of the season, and that is it. It is an interim position. And even if it is Xavi who comes in, and even if he wins every game for the rest of the season, now we go unbeaten for the rest of the season, right? We still need to have that review at the end of the season, because we've done it too many times where we've got someone and it's been good, and then again it's either they've not been backed or whatever. So there needs to be, if an interim does come in, it needs to be a 6-month deal, and then we assess again in the summer where there could be a potential for that person throwing their hat in the ring. But Frank, in my eyes, Frank's gone tomorrow. I just don't see I can't see him being at the next game. Just can't see it.
Bill, Chris has gone, Frank's gone tomorrow. How quick do you think that Thomas Frank will eventually get his marching orders at Spurs?
I think he's going tomorrow as well. It looks like all the reporting coming out as we speak is looking ominous for Frank. You can't survive that result, I'm afraid. You just can't. And I know the board probably had intentions of trying to stick with it, and but you can't survive that result, I'm afraid. So I think he's gone tomorrow, and then I don't think Xavi will come in time for the Dortmund game. I think it'll be Heitinga, who must not be leaving his luck at the moment, coming in managing the Champions League after being there for 3 days. But just, as Chris said at the beginning, the whole thing shows how incompetent that we are at the moment. So, yeah, I think he'll be gone tomorrow, mate. I think he will. And we'll start a new era against Dortmund. Another manager, eh? We're back on the merry-go-round. It's what we do at Tottenham, isn't it? We always, we'll probably be here again in a few months' time doing the same thing.
Yeah. 100% we will definitely be here. Gone. You think he's gone? Yeah. I mean, so if you was offered, Chris, the chance for Xavi Hernandez now, or say a Poch in the summer, what would your? I'm not saying what do you think will happen, but what would you prefer to do? Because you are definitely someone who loves to go back. Kane is mentioned on here. You've stopped doing that for the last couple of weeks because we've been so bad. You know that it's an absolute. You couldn't even sign him on FIFA, let alone in real life. But Poch in the summer or Xavi Hernandez now? What one would you take?
If we get Xavi now, though, does he stay for the full? Like,
Yeah,
does he get...
Xavi ain't coming in for 6 months. If Xavi comes here, he's getting a 4 or 5 year contract most probably. He won't last that long, but that's how long he'll get.
It's a tough one because we need change now, don't we? We do need a change now.
Poch could be coming back into a club that has finished 17th back to back and got no European football, nothing. Do you know what I mean? So that's what he could be walking into.
Yeah. Don't know because I want Poch back just so that we either go and win it all, and then he can say that he's done it for us, and the whole fan base can be buzzing. But we do need a change now.
I've got contrasting, one saying Xavi, one saying Poch.
I think we just throw up the Americans and just pay them off and just bring Poch in now and just tell them, don't worry about the World Cup. You're going to get knocked out in the group stages anyway. Let's just come in here now.
Can't do that with Trump. Trump won't have that. We'll get bombed.
Spurs won't have a stadium. Bill, what would you do? Because Chris is sitting on the fence. His ass is really hurting.
It's a really tricky one, to be fair, because I think if we don't act now, we might get relegated. But I got to go Poch, mate. It's a really tough one because what I would probably be tempted to do is get bloody Jesus Perez in for as an interim in the middle for Poch, and then what we should do actually is get an interim and announce Poch in one. We should say, look, we get Poch on a pre-contract because that'll give everyone a bit of a lift, and whoever is the interim, as long as they survive and we don't get relegated, then I think people will give them grace because they know Poch is coming in summer. So that's what I hope we do. We go and get Poch on an agreed deal after the World Cup. Sorry, Donald Trump, but we won't have to do that. But
he was ours first.
But, I mean, at the same time, if they announce Xavi tomorrow, I'd be buzzing just because of a bit of he's got so much raw, hasn't he? So
yeah, you said earlier about like players not having respect for Frank, and obviously we've seen them walk past him without acknowledging him and stuff like that. You're not doing that to Xavi Hernandez. You're not doing that to one of the greatest midfielders that football's ever seen, sort of thing. So he would walk in and demand that respect instantly. I think the only problem is that he's probably our best midfielder if we sign him. We should actually go that. We should get Xabi Alonso and Hernandez and sign them both up as manager and assistant, and they could play centre mid together. I think we'd do all right then. Guys, we are going to wrap it up there. We're going to ask one more question and then we're going to wrap it up, and it is around transfers because let's face it, I don't think, and I think the panel have kind of agreed on this as well, it doesn't matter who we bring in as manager, things are not going to change, and this group of players is not going to become a top level football club until new signings come in. But Chris, how many do you think we get over the line between now and the end of the window, bearing in mind we have this upheaval already, which looks like the manager's changing over? Do you think that if a new man comes in, that the board go hard and try and get a couple over the line to show that they're backing of the new man, or do you reckon they use it a bit of as an excuse to say, he was kind of what we hear with Frank, he was looking at the players and trying to see whether they were good enough?
Mm-hmm. I think we signed two. I think we do sign two attacking players, and that's it. I think we need more. We need probably 3 or 4 players to really sort of come in and step into the first team and improve us. But 1 or 2, I think two players would be what they're going to get. But we reckon we've got this budget, and we've added 35 million to it for Brennan Johnson. So surely we've got, if the reports are correct, 185 million to go and spend. So spend. So I know we've done 40 or 35 million pounds on Gallagher. That's what you've got. That's basically what you've sold Johnson for. So you've still technically got 150 million. That is 2 or 3 good players that we could bring in. So go and spend it. Let's not worry about who's coming in next. Let's just get the players in now, because we clearly need the attacking players. But it's right having all this attacking intent, but not having the players up front that can finish the ball is a struggle.
Yep, 100%. Beast, if Anthony Gordon was available, we should go to sign him. I actually see a stat today. I don't think Anthony Gordon scored an outfield goal in about like 8 months or something ridiculous.
I had to get rid of him in fantasy football a few months ago. It's awful this season.
So, like, although I agree, I've actually used Gordon as a prime example of a player that Spurs should be looking at. He hasn't scored that many goals this year, and Spurs need someone that just scores goals because that's our biggest problem. We don't have, and someone's literally just followed that up. Harvey Barnes, there you go. He is definitely a player that's more likely to score goals, or certainly has done recently. Billy, how many do we get over the line?
Well, Suzel obviously is done. He was there yesterday, but I can't see many more than 1 or 2. I'd be surprised if we even get 2, which is still not enough, really, is it? So I think we'll get 1 more, and then I don't think that's enough. So poor Xavi or whoever is about to come, you're in trouble, mate.
Yeah, and if you're watching, we want you and we back you, and we're in a great. All of these players are very, very good players. It's solely on Frank. It's got nothing to do with how poor they are, and they can pass 5 yards and everything else. Guys, a massive thank you. Another chilled Sunday. Literally the whole way where you're talking about Frank and that absolute disastrous game that we played yesterday, just absolutely ridiculous. The unthinkable coming up now with Dortmund. You've obviously then got Burnley, and then we play our final champions. Pardon?
Then another Champions League game after that.
Yeah, so it could literally, the next 3 games could be. They
just sat their manager as well. So
this is what I mean. The next 3 are just absolutely huge, and if we get these, if we go and lose 3 out of 3, for instance, Champions League looks very, very bleak. You've then got the Premier League, which is then going to follow up that really tough run that we mentioned earlier, and it's just hard to see. What did Ange say about the light at the end of the tunnel being another oncoming train? It feels like this is the longest tunnel in the whole world. It's literally going on and on and on. Guys, as I said, make sure you are popping over to. I'm going to put everybody's links back in the chat. Make sure you go over and you're subscribing to everyone, or you're following on X, that sort of thing. And obviously, as well, if you haven't done so already for us, we've got literally every single social media you could possibly think of now. We've got X, we've got YouTube, we've got Instagram, we've got TikTok, and I'm trying to keep up with all of it because it's not as easy as it looks, I promise you. Trying to keep up with all of that. But thank you very much to everyone that's come in. Much appreciated. Rumours are maybe Thomas Frank's last day as Tottenham Hotspur boss, and tomorrow there will be a new era of Xavi Hernandez or Xabi Alonso or loads of other managers that are far better than the level that we're at, but we can dream. We can dream because that's all we can do, guys. Have a great evening, well, rest of the evening for some of you, and have a good one. I don't know what else to say. Spurs, eh? Just what they do to us. It's character building if it's nothing else. Guys, last thing as always, come on you Spurs. Take care.